The wind that night was cruel, the kind that seeped through skin and bone, but for Emily, hunger was the sharper pain, a hollow ache that had gnawed at her for 2 days, her last meal nothing more than half a stale granola bar found abandoned on a bus seat. Once she had been the girl with the pale blue apartment walls, a stable marketing job, and a fridge with real food, but the layoffs came, the rent climbed, the savings vanished, friends' couches wore out their welcome, and the shelters could not always take her, so now she drifted through the city like a shadow, invisible to the rushing crowds, until that night when desperation led her to Fifth Avenue, where the glass front stores glowed and a rumor from the shelter whispered of a cafe that left pastries out at closing, a rumor that kept her moving toward the golden-lit windows filled with tarts, éclairs, and macarons so beautiful they looked unreal, her empty stomach tightening as the scent of sugar and butter teased her senses, and that was when the black car rolled up, sleek and soundless, from which stepped a tall man in a charcoal suit cut to perfection, shoes polished, watch gleaming, moving with the quiet certainty of someone to whom the city bent, a man she didn't know. Until passers-by murmured his name, Nathan Cole, billionaire tech entrepreneur, and though he disappeared inside the cafe, he returned minutes later with a white box tied with ribbon, headed for his car until his eyes met hers and, inexplicably, he stopped, asking softly, "Hungry?" To which she reflexively lied, "I'm fine," but he studied her without pity, offering the box with a simple, "because I can, and because I should," and she took it, murmuring thanks before fleeing so she wouldn't cry in front of him, later opening it to find the richest slice of chocolate cake she had ever seen, eating it slowly, savoring not just the sweetness but the reminder of being seen, never expecting to see him again until 2 nights later, when his car pulled up beside her bench and he handed her pasta and bread, the good kind. And so began a quiet pattern, every few days his arrival bringing soup, sandwiches, hot coffee, sometimes gloves or a blanket, never questions, never condescension, until one rainy night she finally asked, "Why me?" and he sat beside her, telling her of losing everything as a teenager, sleeping in a car with his mother, surviving only because a stranger helped him without asking for anything, and how he had promised to do the same someday, his voice carrying a truth that made her chest ache. And in the weeks that followed he brought more than food, he brought a notebook when she mentioned she used to write, he learned her name, she learned his laugh, until one evening he said there was an entry-level job at one of his companies if she wanted it, nothing glamorous, but a start, and though shame and fear of failure knotted in her gut, his words, "You've survived this long, you're stronger than you think," pushed her to accept, leading her into an office with ringing phones and warm lights where she filed papers, made coffee, and earned enough to rent a small room, crying herself to sleep the first night in her own bed from the overwhelming relief of safety, and over the months she replaced worn shoes, bought fresh fruit, even called her estranged sister, seeing Nathan less often but always feeling his quiet pride when they met, until one spring afternoon she passed that same cafe and saw a thin, shivering young man staring at the pastries, and without hesitation she stepped inside, bought a warm sandwich, handed it to him, and when he asked, "Why?" she smiled with words that tasted familiar, "Because I can, and because I should," and in that moment she understood that kindness was a chain, one act linking to another across years and lives, and that Nathan had given her more than food or a job. He had given her back the belief that she was worth saving, a wealth greater than money because it multiplied every time it was shared, a truth she would carry for the rest of her life, passing it forward again and again, proof that even in a world of billionaires and hunger, the smallest act of compassion could change everything.